Hey, I'm Cyclon, and today I want to share with you two things. First, what my plan is for League Start, and second, my top 5 picks for strategies to run week 1. Now, there will also be 3 honorable mentions, but we get to that. Just very quickly, there's timestamps. For those that aren't interested in my plan, feel free to skip ahead. My League Start plan is very simple. I have 3 buddies I'm going to be teaming up with. It's going to be Fel, Gone, MC 7-star, and it's going to be me. Fel and me are going to be mapping, Gone is going to be crafting, and MC is going to be trading. Our goal is to have a 3-hour campaign, have Eta and Exarch done after 6 hours, and have completed our mapping atlases after 8 hours. In case it's a really bad, we expect to at most take 4 hours for campaign, 8 hours, including the campaign time, of course, to get Eta Exarch done, and have our atlas completed after 12 hours. Now, in case I complete early, I'm gonna be farming Ritual and Altars till about 12 hours into the league, and then I'm gonna take a mental reset, I'm gonna take a quick nap, I'm just gonna be refreshing mentally, and just be ready to run again. Then, until I get Scarabs, I'm gonna continue running Altar and Ritual, and once I have Scarabs, I want to do any of my top 5 League Start threads, which is why I'm combining this video. Because I really believe in these 5 strategies, to the point that I want to run any of those, depending on what is actually turning up to be good. Then I will also focus on setting up my town on day 2, experiment with it, see what can be shipped for good resources, see if the bosses can be forced and whatnot. And I am able to pivot into anything else if anything turns out to be really good. Once I get a headhunter, once I have a good bow, once I have good gear, I'm gonna be looking into T17 farming with maybe some Daily Mirror, with Beyond, and maybe some other good mechanics that turn up to be really powerful. So that's that. Now for the actual honorable mentions. There's 3 things I haven't mentioned here, and those 3 things I actually think are really, really good, but not just quite there. The first thing is Legion. I absolutely love Legion. It's one of my favorite mechanics. The issue with Legion is that it's gonna supply a lot of bubblegum currency, and it's really great to start setting you up. When you run Legion, you're gonna get a good chunk of stuff, and you can get there until you have a good build. It's assuming you are a build that can already be good at Legion. The issue is that stack decks nerfed, emblems aren't that much needed more, and with the trade exchange tool, we now potentially losing availability to trade in big bulk. Now, liquefying is going to be as easy as never before, but we're going to be losing the bulks. Now, I will still go back to Legion later on into the league. I have some testing I want to do there, some theories, some stuff that I want to look into, but I don't think it's going to be that good in week 1, just because of the bulk supply. That was one big benefit of Legion, not going to be that big anymore, on top of the changes already gotten, like stack decks and emblems. The second honorable mention is Expedition. Expedition in a map selling logbooks is a decent strategy. It's good, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. Now, Expedition in Expedition logbooks, that is an interesting part. And I think I don't want to do that. I don't want to recommend that, because when you do expeditions, you cannot set up your town. There are no league mechanics in Expedition, so you don't get the encounters, you don't get the mining ores, you delay your town. So I think until you have set up your town and you notice you don't need any more ores, doing anything that isn't in a map could be non-beneficial. I'm missing a word here. And this brings me to my third recommendation, or my third honorable mention rather than recommendation, and that is Sanctum. Sanctum, I think, is gonna making absorb profits for those that run Sanctum, but it's not gonna allow you to interact with the league mechanic, which is why I think Sanctum is a solid starter, and it's gonna be profitable, but it's basically, you could do it any league. In this league where you maybe want to interact with the league mechanic, it's not gonna be as good. However, this means that if less people go Sanctum, Sanctum's gonna get more profitable, because there's gonna be less demand for the good, what was it called, relics, that allow you to run the more absurd variations of Sanctum. So there's definitely still some potential there. But that's 3 for my honorable mentions. Take a look at these strategies. Starting with the right side with Blight. Now, Blight looks to me like a really good entry strategy. It got changed, it got slightly buffed, and it looks really promising. We can combine red altars with some shrines and scarabs for utility, and then we take almost all the blight nodes, except we are not taking immune response, because we don't want to make blight unneeded hard, and we don't take blight spawn for the same reason. It looks really powerful, but only once you can guarantee to kill the bosses, and at that point where you start in this early, you might not be able to do that yet. Reason Blight is a good entry level strategy is because we only need 3 Scarabs. We only need a Blight Scarab of Oils to increase the tier of the oils by 1, and 2 Blight Scarab of Bounty, making our chance to open the chests again. So this means that Blight is really great to do while you don't have all Void Stones, while you don't have all the map slots yet. So you can just throw it in, run it, and it's gonna feel good. And then you can sell the Blight maps or you can run them yourself. The Blight maps look really promising because of the prismatic oil looking very strong, but the downside of the Blight maps is again no leak mechanic, but if you combine it with running Blight in maps, I think you're gonna be fine, because the Blight in maps is fairly quick paced and should allow you to have just a decent amount of leak mechanic procs to do in between your Blighted maps. Then we got Beasts. Beast, just like Blight, looks like now is gonna be a really good league mechanic for week 1. My biggest issue with Beasts before was that in the first week, there wasn't one singular beast that had like 1 to 2 divines value, like later on the Crikey Cameral. Now, with the Black Morrigan going into the normal beast pool, that will be no longer the case. The Black Morrigan can guarantee 4 links, so it should be about a similar value than what used to be Fated Connections, or the value of about 5 Tainted Fusings. So it should be between 2 and 4 divines in value, which is my expectation for it. It really depends on how common it is. So this is also the factor on how good Beast is. The few beasts that got moved from the Beast memory into the core pool, and where Morrigan is, and at what map tier they appear, will be the factor that decides how good this strategy is. If Morrigan is super common and you can get him on like T4 maps, T5 maps, T6 maps, Beast is gonna be nuts. If you can only get him in T16 maps, well, it's gonna be a lot harder, but it still has some potential. If he is super rare, well, then it's gonna be less potential. But this is the variable on the strategy, but it looks very promising. Now, the Beast tree is fairly simple. We just take all the nodes, we take the shrines, we take map sustain. Depending if we run lower tier, we need a way to sustain our maps. One thing that I was told is shadow shaping. By favoriting arrow the maps around the map you want to ping pong that you don't want to run, you favor those, so that the maps, let's say Strand Fields, you only get those to drop, so you can keep running those 2 maps in between each other, and you have a good map sustain. So this is a nice thing, an addition that I haven't considered yet. And then you just run your maps, you're gonna be fine. And here to note, depending on what if the Black Morrigan is on no family, it might be worse to not take anything here, depending on what the value of the second most expensive beast is. If the Black Morrigan is in a family, then that is the family we want to take. So let's assume maybe he is wild, so then we would be taking this one. But that much for this. Now we can just add essence on top of this tree. We have enough passive points, considering that we only need 108 for this tree. This one gives us 120. Now, this would mean that we want to use 2 additional essence scarabs, and this is the reason we can do this. In last league, we only had 1 additional spot, and 1 scarab alone didn't add that much benefit from running beast. But with 2, we can combine an essence scarab of the Ascent and an essence scarab of Cultification. But this is only viable if we do it on a T6 and buff map. And then beast farming with essence of Cultification, with the tier higher, with the chance to roll a tier higher already on the Atlas, it's gonna be pretty nuts. And this is at least the expectation. So the 3 beast scarabs, 2 herds, and 1 duplicating is the core, and then we can add essence on the top for additional benefits. At least in theory. In praxis, it really depends on how common and where the Morrigan is going to be at. Then we got Harbingers, intentionally skipping Strongboxes for a moment. Harbingers, I think, looks really interesting. Harbingers in itself is just gonna be a great combination with Beyond, great combination with Delirium, which both look really promising in the upcoming league. You kill a ton of mobs, get a ton of buffs, and you should be able to get a ton of loot, and Fracturing Orbs are gonna be in high demand in a league with 3 Combinators. So we have a very simple tree where we just pick up Harbingers and Shrines and Exarch and Beyond, and then we want to use some Scarabs. And the Scarabs for Harbinger are gonna be Warhordes to duplicate the shards, Regency to get a chance for more shards, and then either 2 Harbinger Scarabs and 1 Delirium Scarab of Mania, which is getting buffed in the next league, so it fills faster and it spreads faster. And then we maybe replace 1 Harbinger Scarab with a Harbinger Scarab of Discernment. Now, this one is getting replaced with a Harbinger Scarab of the Obelisk that spawned these obelisks that also drop shards. We really need to see how good these shards from the obelisks are, if this one is better than 3 additional Harbingers in your map. But this is all the factor that we need to decide for Harbinger. Overall, Harbinger is going to be very good. Now we get to Strongboxes. Strongboxes is something that I haven't really been paying much attention to. I knew it existed, I knew it's powerful, but this is the wrong tree. This is the correct tree, but I didn't know how good it is. Now, Strongboxes, the idea is to run it preferably on a wall temple and just get a ton of Strongboxes, dupe their loot, and hope to get some good lucky drops like maps, div cards, divines, or maybe some corrupted uniques if we run it on a wall temple, combining with Exarch for additional loot, and just run these maps fairly quickly. We also, because of the closeness of Strongbox monsters being spawned, we can add Beyond on top. Now, the Scarabs would be an Ambush Scarab, a Discernment Scarab to get the more rare variants, so like Divination and Currency, Hidden Compartments to have a chance to reopen, Potency to have increased effectiveness of the modifiers, meaning that we should be able to get more loot out of them, and then a Containment, so that we put all the mobs in the Strongboxes, meaning we have more Strongboxes in the map, meaning we have more the other Scarabs have a better effectiveness in our map. And finally, the last strategy is map farming. Now, when I mean map farming, I mean using destructive play and farming synthesized Guardian maps and Conqueror maps. The idea of this is to get as many map bosses in our maps as possible and just get them to drop maps, and also getting a lot of maps dropped improves our chance of getting T17s dropped. Now in 3.24 we were able to use Cartography of Singularity, making unique mobs final map bosses, so all these bosses drop unique maps, which we had a chance to convert with an influence gap of conversion. However, that got changed. This one is just not available anymore, and this influence gap of conversion without this one isn't that good. So what we instead can do is use a Horn Scarab of the Pandemonium and a Domination Scarab of Terrors, combine it with a Domination Scarab and Domination on the map device, so we get more shrines, we get more map bosses, and then have chance for duplication, so that if a map spawns, a map drops, we just gonna get 2 of them most likely, or we can use just 1 duplication, and we can use 1 ascension to have the chance for more normal maps, meaning more T17s. Here it really comes dependent on how much demand there will be for T17s, and how much demand there will be for unique maps, synthesized Guardian and Conqueror maps. But yeah, that is basically it. Those are my 5 strategies that I can recommend for launch, that I am planning to run for launch, depending on what is going to be under demand in the upcoming league once it starts shaping up. That being said, video doesn't need to be longer than it needs to be. Have a wonderful day, and I'll be seeing you later live on Twitch on the actual league start. Goodbye, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.